Well, this is going to be take 2 on this video. If you didn't see my community tab, you already know that this file was corrupted once, so let's see if we can get through it now. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over all the series that I'm currently reading, ones that I have DNF'd, ones that I am caught up with currently for all the books that are released, and ones that I'm waiting for books to release. So let's just dive into it. Not going to go into it too much, but just check my description box below for my Patreon, Bookish Box Ambassador link, Pingo Books account, so many more things. We just had our Patreon live sprints over the weekend and it was so much fun. Right now, I'm currently on live right now on YouTube doing sprints with all of you guys. Definitely check it out because I'm going to be doing a lot more sprints. Hopefully you like that content. Let's get into the video. So a few months ago, I had done kind of like what series am I in the middle of, and I went through and showed you everything on my computer. So now I'm going to kind of do much of an update, I guess, on the series that I have decided to DNF, ones that I have gotten currently caught up with, different things like that. So if I have any misinformation on like when books release, I printed this off of my Google Doc. I haven't went through it in about a month. So of course, especially with indie authors, a lot of times their dates will change from time to time. So I'm just gonna say when I had this list done, when it's supposed to have released. So let's talk about the ones that I have decided to DNF first. The first series that I decided to DNF was the War of Lost Hearts series by Carissa Broadbent. This is a trilogy. It is a kind of like a high epic fantasy with a little bit of romance in there. I would definitely not say that it's a romantasy. I read book 1 and it was okay. Book 2 entirely lost me, so I decided to DNF it because it wasn't holding my interest and I didn't want to push myself to read the third and final book whenever I really wasn't invested. The next series that I have DNF'd is The Zodiac Academy by Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. Y'all, I should have DNF'd this series so long ago, but I kept saying, okay, I'm going to read book 7. Then I was like, I'm going to read book 8, thinking that it was the final one. And then they announced that book 9 was coming. Then I was like, I'll read book 9. And if that's not the final one, then I'm done. I started reading book 9 and 100, 200 pages into it, I was like, I just don't care. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about the world. So I ended up just DNFing it. You know, I know it's the last book, I think, in the series. I just don't care at this point. The next one was the Magnolia Parks series by Jessa Hastings. I did read the first Magnolia Parks book and then the first Daisy Hates book, which is technically book 2 in that series, but it starts Daisy Hates' story. I was in the middle of Daisy Hates and I realized that I'm not as invested in this series as I thought I was, and it was just so much time had passed since I had read the first book, and then whenever we get to Daisy's story, I had even forgotten who Daisy was at that point. So I just decided to just DNF the whole series because I wasn't going to read Daisy's story just to get to the third book, which is the second book in the Magnolia series. So I ended up DNFing it. The next one is The Bow to the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. I read this book and Long Live the Elf Queen. They were okay, but I did not care to go on to the third one, which is, I think, Fate of the Elf Queen. It's not that they weren't good. Like, book 1 was great. And then I remember in book 2, it was like these characters were entirely different. Like, they weren't even acting the way they did in book 1. I felt like the author forgot how the characters were supposed to be, or, you know, anything like that. I just felt like it was an entirely different book. So I was like, I'm done. The next series that I had DNF'd was the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. I know that there's like 5 books now, or 6 books total in the story. I read Discovery of Witches and then Shadow of Night. I could not after book 2. I was done. I just felt like I was sitting in an English class learning about history. There wasn't any of the romance that I had really wanted from book 1 to progress with. There really wasn't a whole lot to it, and just for me, I was like, I don't want to push myself, even if book 3 really did a good job on wrapping up a lot of the original storylines. I just didn't want to continue. So I felt bad, but you just got to cut your losses. The next series that I DNF'd was the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. I read Red Queen and then Glass Sword, I think is the second one. I liked the first book a little bit. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more about this world. The plot twist at the end really had me. Book 2 really lost me. It seems to be a theme when I go back and I look at these series that book 2 just loses my interest. And it's not that usually book 2 is terrible, because there are a lot of series that I love book 2 on. It's just that you have to keep my interest, and if you change the story too much, if you decide to go one way whenever you were starting to go a different way at the end of the first book, I'm just entirely done. So I ended up just going ahead and DNFing the whole series. And then the final series from that video long ago, several months ago, that I had done, that I decided to DNF was the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. I read the first 8 books, I want to say. I just don't want to continue. I love this story. I love all of the cast of characters. I even love the TV show as well. But I just feel like at this point, we've went on for a little too long, just for my personal preference. So I decided, instead of ending up hating the series because I pushed myself, I decided to stop, and then maybe I'll just watch the other seasons of Outlander just to kind of get a vibe on how the rest of the series goes. But just book-wise, I didn't want to read a 900-page book whenever I really didn't like it. Alright, so let's talk about series that I have completed. This means that they are fully complete. No other books are coming out in the series that has ever been announced thus far. So let's talk about those really quick. The first one is going to be The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue. This is just a duet. There are not going to be any more books in this series, but I have fully completed it and absolutely loved it. I highly recommend. This whole series is a 5-star. Dark romance. Why choose? Check your trigger warnings. The next one is the Crescent City series. Now, I understand that there's probably going to be more books, but there hasn't been an announcement yet. So I am just counting it as completed because I did finish House of Flame and Shadow back when it released earlier this year. I know that Sarah J. Maas is working on the 6th book in the ACOTAR series. So we may get a Crescent City series book after that, but it's going to be a couple years. So nothing's been announced. So I'm going to count it as completed so far. I did complete the Savage Land series by Stacey Marie Brown. I do not recommend this series unless you're just wanting kind of one of those popcorn reads where you can just read it. You're not going to remember anything about it. There's going to be a lot of repetitiveness to it, but I did finish the entire 6-book series. Also, I did complete the Follow Me Darkly series by Helen Hart. It consists of Follow Me Darkly, Follow Me Under, Follow Me Always, but it also has the first book in the series from Braden's point of view called Darkly, and also the second book in the series from his point of view called Under. There has not been an announcement for the third and final book to be by Braden's point of view called Always. I have a feeling that it's probably going to be coming out, but nothing has been said, so I am marking this as complete. Which also I did just read My Heart Still Beats by Helen Hart, which is a standalone spinoff about Braden Black's brother Benjamin and kind of his romance. So I have read all of the books in that series and nothing has been announced for that third and final book from his point of view. So we're just going to call it completed. Of course, I read the Dracula duet, which is Blood Orange and Black Rose by Karina Halley. There are not going to be any more books in that duet, obviously, so check, finished that. Okay, so let's talk about series that I am completely caught up on, but there are still gonna be more books in this series coming. The first one is The Consequence by A. Jade. This is the second book in the duet that's a spinoff from The Words. This is supposed to be coming out tentatively in September of this year. It has been pushed back a few times, so I say tentatively, but I am fully caught up, just awaiting for the next book to release. The next one is going to be Seasons of Flesh and Flame by A.G. Howard, which is book 2 in this series. It is coming out in September as well. So I am just anxiously awaiting for that to come out too, because it's been 2 years since I read the arc of the first one, which was Shades of Rust and Ruin, I believe. It's kind of like a dark, gothic-y fantasy with a hint of romance. It's so, so good. We also have the third book, which is the first book in the second duet in the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. This is The Songbird of Heart. Y'all, I don't even remember. I'm currently waiting for that to release, I think in November of this year, if I remember correctly. I think it was October and it got pushed to November. Anyway, anxiously awaiting for that one to come out. All right, the next one that I am so ready to come out because I know that it has been pushed back once before, and that is The Vicious King by Gina Maxwell. This will be the third and final book in the Deviant Kings series. I love it. The first one is The Dark King. It's an urban fantasy romance with spice. So, so good. Has a whole cast of characters that are different types of fae and other creatures. Like you have vampires and werewolves and all these other little things in there. It's so good. Of course, like many others, I am waiting until, what is it, January of 2025 for Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros to come out, the third book in the Fourth Wing series. I don't even know. It's called the Imperium series, I think, but I'm so ready for it to come out. I am so invested with these characters. I hope that we're out of the whole like academy setting. I feel like that's a little too overdone at this point, especially towards the end of book 2, but we'll see. Of course, I am waiting for book 6 to come out in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. There's a lot of speculation on what the book's going to be about, but I think the consensus is that it's going to be Elaine's story, the third sister. I'm curious as to who her mate really is, because a lot of people on the internet are convinced that it is not Lucian, but we'll see. There's a lot of theories out there. If you are big Sarah J Maas fans, you have to look up some of these theories because some of them are wild and out there. Others kind of make you think, but nonetheless, I don't think we're gonna get it at the beginning of next year because it hasn't been announced yet and we're already midway through this year. So I think it's going to be a 2026 release or at least a fall to winter release of 2025. I am also waiting for book 9 in the Bloodgrace series by Vela Roth. I finished up book 8. I had the arc of it at the end of May. It came out at the beginning of June. And now I am desperate for the 9th book to come out because the cliffhanger that Vela Roth left us with is so miserable. Like, I need to know what happens with everybody. And I also just want to be back in the world. It's one of those books that I could live in, and I truly love everything about this series. I love Leo and Cassia, who are the main people that are together, but I also love Mac and Lyros. It has such great LGBTQ plus representation in this book. Mac and Lyros is just perfection. The next one I'm ready for is the next book in the Of Shadow and Moonlight series by Luna Laurier. I think it was originally called She Who Bites. It's been changed around a little bit. She is trying to get it done before she goes into labor with her child. I don't know if she's going to get it done or not. There hasn't really been any word on when it's going to be released, but I hope that maybe in the next month or two we'll get a little bit of a nibble on that. But I am ready to continue this series. I also can't wait for Totally and Completely Fine by Alyssa Sussman. This is the third book. It's not really a series, but they're like standalones. This book is about the sister of the guy from the first book, which is called Funny You Should Ask. And I can't wait until this has been pushed back a few times though. It is coming out in 2025. I thought that it was originally coming out at the end of this year, and then it got pushed back, I think, to April of 2025. So can we just get it now? I'm also ready for the fourth and final season of the Zodiac Queen series, which will be the last 3 Zodiac guys in this by Gemma James. I don't know if it's going to be the last season of this series, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we'll have the last 3 guys of the Zodiac, but then we still have the auction to go. We still have to wrap up some of these storylines. So maybe there's going to be kind of like a single book that kind of wraps everything up. I'm not quite sure, but it was supposed to be released in October. I don't know if Gemma James has pushed it back yet or not, but October isn't very far away. I also cannot wait for the second book in the Cloak of a Vampire series by Sapper A. Englard. I do have this book as a ARC already off of NetGalley. I just need to read it, but I have other ARCs that I need to get to first because this book doesn't come out until November or December of this year, so I still have a few months to go. But it is called Blood of the Gods, maybe. The book's right here, so I don't know what it's called at the moment, but I can't wait to get to it. I'm so happy that I have the ARC. Also, 1,000 Broken Pieces by Tilly Cole, which is technically not a series, but it is book 2 because I think it follows the sister of Poppy from the first book. So I can't wait to see kind of where we go with that. I have a feeling that if it's anything like 1,000 Boy Kisses, it's gonna shred my heart apart. And then also, I cannot wait for the Prince of Water by Natalie Camerata. I think that's what it's called. It is coming out in January of 2025. Book 2 in the Elemental Air series, or I think that's what it's called. Princess of Air was the first one. I can't wait for Prince of Water because these are going to be standalones, I'm assuming, all interconnected, following each of the siblings. I can't wait to see what our Prince of Water gets up to. And then the last book that is in this section is, I think it's called Claimed by the Shadows, possibly. I think that's what it's called. But it is the second book in the Rosalie series that started out with Kissed by Shadows. I love this. It's a dark romance. Check trigger warnings, please. I can't wait to get to it. I think it's going to be like October or November. I've already been all over her Instagram telling her, I will beg you if you let me just beta read, if you let me ARC read. We'll just see when it's going to come out. I think tentatively it is October or November. Okay, and then the next category, we are going to talk about the series that it's unknown. There is no mention of when another book is coming, so we're kind of just left in the air. The first one is going to be the third and final book in the Bewitched series by Laura Thalassa. We do know that a book is coming. There has not been a date announced. There has not been a name of the book announced, so I'm including it in this category because it's still kind of unknown. Another one is Punderworld. It is a graphic novel. The first book came out a few years ago and nothing since. There has not been an announcement or anything of the continuation. I don't know if there's going to be another one. I hope there is. I absolutely loved this comic, which is a Hades and Persephone rom-com romance, and it's actually pretty fun. We have the second book in the Until the Stars Fall by Vanessa Rassinen. I know that there's going to be another one. There just hasn't been an announcement as of yet that I have seen. There may be now, and maybe I haven't found it, but I can't wait for that book to come out either. Also, book 2 in the Saga of the Cursed, I think is what it's called, by Daniel L. Jensen, the Viking fantasy romance that I absolutely love. I know that there's going to be another one. There has not been an announcement since I looked, but again, it could be announced and I'm just not finding it, but it's kind of unknown at this point. The last two I'm going to talk about, I currently had as unknown, but they have recently just came out and announced that they are coming out. There hasn't been a date set fully yet, but they have announced a book is coming out. The first one is going to be the second book in the Mirror trilogy by Dana Evan. I know that is coming out. I think she said that she's going to try to do it winter or like at the end of this year, beginning of next year time frame. So right now we're kind of just up in the air, but I'm desperate to get back into that world. And then the last one in this category is the second and final book in that Crimson Moth duet by Kristen Ciccarelli. I loved it whenever I read it back in February, Heartless Hunter. It was so good, and I can't wait to see where the story is going to go. All right, the final section is going to be all the series that I'm currently in the middle of that already have at least the next book that I need to read already released, if not the whole series released. least. So this is going to be the longest section. I'm not really going to go into a whole lot of description on these because there are quite a few, but the first one is The Stolen Throne by Abigail Owen, which is book 2 in this series. We have Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. Technically, it's not a series. They are standalones. This is, I think, in her Stimonus novels. I'm counting it. We have Saga Volume 3 by Brian Vaughan. I haven't continued my Saga volumes, even though I own all of them, and I need to really get back to them. Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong, which is book 2 in that Secret Shanghai duet. And I just need to read it, and I would be done with that duet. Imperfect by Dee Dee Larson, which again, this is book 2 in that duet, so it would be finishing up a whole nother series. Forged by Malice by Elizabeth Helen, which is book 3 in the Beasts of the Briar series, which I do think book 3 is the final book that is currently out. Western Passage, The Arrival Part 2 by G. DeCarlo. This would finish up that series as well. A Trial of Thorns by Helena Rookwood and Elm Vince, which is book 2 in this trilogy. The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. That would finish up this series so far. I think there's been some talk that it may continue past book 2. I think it would be just a duet. We have Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton, which is book 3 in the Fortuna Sworn series. We have House of Pounding Hearts by Olivia Wildenstein, book 2 in that series that I can't even think of right now. We have Anyone But Nick by Penelope Bloom, which would be book 3 in those interconnected standalones of the King brothers. This would finish up that series. Dirty Lying Dragons by Sabrina Blackberry, which as of time of filming, I am currently reading that now, and then I can get to Dirty Lying Wolves as an arc that is coming out in September. Right Move by Liz Tomford, which is book 2 in the Windy City series. I think the 4th and final book, Play Along, just came out, so I think the series is finished. I just need to read them. Keeper of the Bees by Meg Castle. This will finish up that series, and I've had it for several months in hand. I've been needing to read it for several months prior to that. I just need to get to it. Reckless by Lauren Roberts. It just came out at the beginning of this month, I think on July 2nd possibly, or somewhere around there. I need to get to that before I start falling behind again on that series. The Winter's Crime by Marie Rutkowski. This is book 2 in that trilogy. I am still undecided if I'm going to continue with this series or not, because book 1 was just kind of a mediocre read, nothing outstanding but nothing terrible. I just need to see if I want to continue. What Hunts Inside the Shadows by Harper L. Woods. I need to continue this series. However, I know that The Coven and The Curse, that duet that came out, it really put me off of Harper L. Woods. I don't know if it was her writing or the story, so I haven't really gravitated to any other books that she's written, but I really loved What Lies Beyond the Veil. We have Scarred by Emily McIntyre. I wasn't going to put this back on here because I had just been like, I'm not going to read that series. However, one of my Patreon and friend that I have made from my booktube channel is currently reading that and has convinced me that I need to read it too. And it's not that she convinced me, I convinced myself. Redeemed by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. I think this is the final book in the House of Night series. I don't know why. I have spent years not finishing this book because it would finish up that whole thing. Now I'm wondering if I'm even going to remember anything. The Fae Warriors Queen by Jamie Schlosser. I need to read that because I think another book is getting ready to come out and I'm going to fall really behind in that series as well. Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, which is book 2 in the Kindred Curse saga. I need to get to it. I need to hear what is happening. I know that the 4th and final book comes out at the end of this month, and I want to get caught up because everybody raves about it. The next one is A Crown This Cold and Heavy by Stasia Stark, which is book 3 in that series, the Kingdom of Lies series. And I know book 4 and the final book just came out at the end of May, so I need to really get caught up on that before I keep adding more series to my list. Emmy and the Tudor Throne by Natalie Murray, which will be the 3rd and final book in that trilogy, and then I can go on and read the Omnibus, which is a new adult spicier version, and I'm desperate to get to that. The 2nd book in the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark, I think is called Stolen Air, I think is what it's called. called. I need to continue on with the Brutal Birthright series because I really loved Brutal Prince, and I really want to continue on and get a little bit more feel of Sophie Lark's writing because I really enjoyed the first book. The next one is the second book in the Paper Princess series by Erin Watt. I really enjoyed the first book, Paper Princess. I just don't know what the series is called, but I really enjoyed it and I really want to continue on with the second book. The final book is a maybe because I did read the first book. I kind of was intrigued. It was a mediocre read for me, but I have heard a lot of rave reviews about the series as a whole, and I think they are interconnected standalones possibly. But that is the second book in the Whispers of You series by Catherine Cowles. I don't know what the second book is called, but I'm still up in the air if I want to read that because, again, I'm not a huge contemporary romance fan, but I was intrigued with this story because it has like a mystery element to it and some like hidden secret vibes that kind of gave me just a mild thriller aspect, and that really intrigued me. All right, everybody, those are all of the books that I need to get caught up on or anxiously awaiting for them to come out. I'm really happy that we kind of did this because it gives me a little bit of accountability on what I'm reading and how I should prioritize getting caught up on series before I continue to add more series to my list. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on any of these series, my DNFs, the ones that I'm caught up on, or the ones that I still need to read that have already been released. If you don't have anything to say, but you also want to let me know that you are still here in this video, leave me a sun emoji in the comments below, because if you are currently on my sprints on this Sunday afternoon, since I have to refilm this because the one that I had before got corrupted, then you already know how sunburnt I am. Leave me a sun emoji below, but I hope you all have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Bye!